in there. I don't care. We either have to cut that out or we have to cut out this section of me saying that we have to cut that out. We should start every podcast with me saying, oh my holy fucking hell, we cannot have, we gotta cut that out.
Put that in there.
We cannot put that in there. We will get removed from Spotify. We might get Spotify removed from the App Store. My gosh.
Think so. Yeah, okay, yeah.
Okay, talk about a cold open. Right. So welcome to another episode of Niche Knowledge and Nonsense. I'm your co-host, Ethan.
And I'm the other co-host, Bailey. And today's episode is actually going to be about a couple different things. So it was my turn to choose a topic. So this is actually going to be like a two-part thing. So this is going to be part one of the top 5 most believable cryptids.
I hardly even believe this is our topic. So, I mean, fresh off the tails of a Smash Hit Gnome episode, we're going to cover 5 additional believable cryptids, on top of gnomes, which, again, as we explored, are basically understood as a factual phenomenon, a presence in our society, at least out here in the States and in most of Europe. But that's interesting. So we're going off of like actually believable cryptids. So ones that have the...
So these are going to be the ones that have the most supporting evidence, if there even is any. So I'll kind of go over like what each one is. In this episode, I'm just going to cover the top 2, and then the part 2 will cover the next 3. So I'll go over all of that. I did find several sources for both of them, though, which was kind of interesting. Like, there's a lot of stuff out there, whether it's stories or whatever, but there are a surprisingly, large amount of news articles, too, which I found interesting.
Regarding, sightings or deep dives into... Okay.
And encounters.
Oh,
I know. Right?
Oh, heavens. Just once, I want the newscaster with the 6K camera out in the woods to have an encounter so we have a decent flipping video. But
dude, I know.
I do think that a lot of passionate journalists have kind of dived into cryptozoology in the last, probably 10, 15 years especially. And I think we've seen an increase in that along with the rise of podcasting as a storytelling medium.
I think so. I also think that it's more like sensational and attention grabbing to cover topics that maybe other news stations aren't covering as much. Or also just things people don't normally talk about. We're talking more about aliens and UFOs and UAPs now.
That's true. That's true. At all levels. I mean, from on the internet, on the news, and even in the flipping courtrooms in Congress, the Senate, all the way up to the Oval Office. They are among us or above us, maybe.
Or in us. Looking at you, Ethan, you freak. So I do want to do an alien or a UAP episode at some point. I know a couple friends of mine have seen some things, so I think I'll ask them to send their stories and stuff. Yeah.
Wow. So, of an extraterrestrial nature?
Of like a UFO.
Oh, interesting. I know we've had a good amount of contact from our friends about getting contact from the great beyond in supernatural sense, but I don't know if I actually know anybody who has had a UFO or UAP incident aside from you've had a couple of pretty sus encounters, I think. But
I've had some interesting paranormal experiences, but I also what I thought was a UFO above my yard a couple years ago. It turned out it was Starlink. I felt really dumb because I took a video of it and sent it to the local news station, and they were like, that looks a lot like Starlink, and it's actually right above us, so it's probably Starlink.
Well, I mean, if anybody I know of is an alien, it might be Mr. Elon Musk, and,
you've got a point.
Starlink is literally a space, not a ship, but a space dish. I don't know. It's up there in the sky.
My question is, why did we not put Elon in the Tesla when we sent it in space?
He's got that. He's got that roadster with the astronaut strapped in the seat, floating around out there. Have you ever seen that?
Yes. Yeah, no, I think that's really cool, but also really dumb at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, everybody was wondering who was in that suit because knowing Elon, there's no way he would have missed out on a joke opportunity like that. There's somebody
No.
in that suit.
Most likely.
It's gonna be the funniest thing ever when we find out who.
Yeah. We'll go up there. Pretty soon, they're probably going to send people to space.
Yeah, they've done it before, allegedly.
That's what I thought. Yeah, allegedly.
For sure.
So.
Now, do you know if there was actually ever a monkey-manned rocket? I feel like I've heard that there was, or I don't know if this is just like a running joke, but I don't know if they've ever actually like sent animals to space with no intention of bringing them home, and I think that's incredibly sad.
Yes.
There was?
Actually,
Were they on board the Roadster that was launched to Mars, or a different mission?
nope. In 1959, there was a South American squirrel monkey aboard an Army Jupiter missile, and
Missile?
they were recovered unharmed. But this different article here said a rhesus monkey launched in 1948 from White Sands, New Mexico, died during the flight from suffocation.
Oh,
So that's really great.
so
Thanks
like
for
50
ruining my night, Ethan. Joking.
I'm sorry, but we're 50-50 on monkeys being able to make it out of the atmosphere and back in, so there's no reason
Yeah.
we shouldn't be able to do it, right?
No, I've seen Interstellar. We can do it.
What could possibly
So-
go wrong? I've also seen Arrival.
Arrival is such a good movie.
Such a
One of
good
my top
movie.
favorite movies.
Absolutely.
Like alien movies.
It might be one of the best movies ever made. Oh man, it's just so good.
Yeah. No, it's definitely a top contender. I'm not sure about best ever made. Have you seen Coneheads? With Dan Aykroyd?
I mean, there's a lot of Dan Aykroyd movies that are in the running, Blues Brothers, Coneheads. I mean, we'll
What
can you do?
Name of that one movie? What's the name? I'm blanking on the name.
Oh, that one movie.
Nothing But Trouble.
Haven't seen it.
Have you seen that one? Shut up.
No.
Okay. Next time I visit or you guys visit, we're watching it.
We're
gonna
have
watch
to.
it together.
We have to.
It's gonna be great.
I've never heard this much enthusiasm. So, aliens
Yes.
aside, for
Okay.
future episodes, how are we starting off this cryptid exploration?
So we're gonna start. I have like a list. So believability in cryptids often stems from a mix of cultural significance, anecdotal evidence, and scientific plausibility. Here are a few cryptids that often rank high in believability. So number 1 is Bigfoot, or otherwise known as Sasquatch. This elusive ape-like creature is said to inhabit forests, particularly in the Pacific Northwest of North America. Reports of sightings and footprints, though inconclusive, have fueled public interest and speculation for decades. Number 2, the Loch Ness Monster, otherwise known as Nessie. Sightings of a large, unidentified creature in Scotland's Loch Ness have persisted for centuries. Though most sightings can be attributed to natural phenomena or hoaxes, the idea of a prehistoric creature inhabiting the depths captures the imagination.
Okay. So we're
yeah.
starting off with the Bigfoot and Loch Ness Monster. So I feel like these are definitely probably like the two of the OG cryptids. I mean, before we had Mothman, before we had the Enfield Horror, before we had any of the others that have kind of popped off over the last 10 years, gotten really popular, we always had Bigfoot. We always had Nessie. So, I mean, I think just from a cultural standpoint, they definitely are batting in a different league. But I don't know if, like, prior to hearing any of these articles or sources, if I would say either of them are particularly believable. I might be swayed.
I am not 100% sold on either one of these, but I do think that it's fun to like listen to stories because I'm not going to discredit someone's experience. I wasn't there. I didn't see the thing. I didn't witness it. So I'm going to take you at your word and trust that you're telling the truth. Maybe you did see something but you just misidentified something, or who knows? Like, it could be a bunch of different reasons. So I do like reading about these things.
Sure.
I do find it interesting because there have also been other cryptids, or animals that were cryptids before they were like discovered by the scientific community. Like, I'm blanking right now. Was it the platypus?
I believe it was the platypus that, was kind of like a urban legend, a cryptid, until they found a population of them. And I don't know if I've talked about it on the podcast before or not, but one of my favorite things to bring up is I think even in our lifetimes, giant squids were fake, and they just kept finding, giant squids and colossal squids. And it starts, begging the question, are the old paintings of the Kraken, less legend and maybe rooted in something a little bit scarier? So, a lot of things are cryptids until they're not. And you also touched on one of my biggest thoughts, even on supernatural stuff, that I always want to say is I believe people saw something, or I believe people heard something that freaked them out. I don't know if it's, ever necessarily a Yeti or Bigfoot or a Loch Ness monster or anything like that. But there are some very strange things out there. I mean, we've got 30-foot snakes, that's pretty flippin' scary. If you've ever seen a moose in real life, my gosh, it's horrifying, right?
They're giant.
They're as big as a truck. So, I mean, then you also have pranksters. I mean, my brother Micah and I used to put like Halloween masks on like the pool skimmer, like metal pole, and just go like smack the mask against the second story windows, like in our little sister's room.
That is hilarious.
Yeah, it's not super nice, but if you had the guts to not fess up to doing it, then that's a traumatized child who saw a monster, and it's real to them.
Yeah. I mean, in your defense, though, you were homeschooled and you guys didn't have electricity. So what else are you supposed to do?
There's only so many Amish pursuits. Only so many Amish pursuits.
In all seriousness, Ethan was homeschooled, but they did have electricity, right? You guys had electricity.
Towards the end, I think so. Not until high school, but yeah.
Okay. So, yes. So while these cryptids have captured the public imagination and generated considerable interest, concrete evidence of their existence remains elusive, leading skeptics to question their credibility. Nonetheless, the mystery and allure surrounding these creatures persist, making them the most believable cryptids in popular culture. The next three that we'll be doing in in part 2 will be about the Yeti, or otherwise known as the Abominable Snowman, Mothman, and the Chupacabra.
My gosh. Oh, sweet. I should have saved some of my Mothman rants for that. But
hey, there's still time.
Out of all of those, I mean, I always thought Chupacabra sounded like the most believable because, as far as cryptids go, it's not that fantastical.
Yeah. Like it's kind of, in my opinion, it is one of the most believable because we already have animals similar to that. Mm-hmm. Right? And like it's basically like a coyote.
Yeah, exactly. It can be coyote with mange or whatever they say. But also people say, Bigfoot, it's got theories ranging from, extraterrestrial multidimensional being. My camera's hopping all over around. I'm sorry. Bigfoot even, it could be an extraterrestrial multidimensional being, or it could be an isolated population of extant apes. That's what, they also say it could be. So it is within the realm of possibilities that there could be a very shy ape walking around the Pine Barrens. That wouldn't be the strangest thing that's ever happened in the history of the world.
Yeah, I mean, I think about this all the time. There are still animals and bugs in the Amazon that have yet to be discovered. Like, they exist, but a scientist hasn't written it down on paper or taken pictures of it. Same with deep sea. I mean, there's so many things down in like the deep, deep ocean that we don't know what's down there.
Sure.
it already exists, but we just right now like don't have a way of like getting down there and like taking pictures of everything and documenting it. Like there's so much to cover. I do think though with cryptids though, with them being like on our like sea level whatever, I don't know. It's hit or miss. Let's just dig into it a little bit more.
Absolutely.
I did want to ask you though, what is your favorite cryptid? And why is it Bigfoot? Side eye.
Well, I find Bigfoot to be rather attractive of a notion. But I mean, I've got a lot. Again, I love the Enfield horror, just being close to, Enfield, Illinois. That's always a cool one.
Yeah.
Momo, the Missouri monster, again, just like close to home kind of cryptids like that, which, that could be another whole episode on its own. But I always did have like a soft spot for Nessie, like out in a nice foggy, very deep, very cold lake. It just feels like it could be brimming with mysteries. Sunken small boats, sunken large boats, a dinosaur population that just got caught through some tectonic shifting or something 100 years ago. It seems like in just a literal well of mysteries, it could be a little true. And I mean, you can get a search party out and just, absolutely scan over 5 square miles of woods, but you're not going to be able to have that same kind of thoroughness with a big lake. So I always thought if we can only see like 1% of the loch, then there might be a monster in the other 99.
I'll kind of touch on that too. All right. Last podcast on the left, one of my favorite podcasts, they interviewed an author named J.W. Ocker sometime in 2022. He's the author of The United States of Cryptids. And I bought the book shortly after listening to that interview.
Hey, there we go.
Yeah.
I have this book.
Do you really?
Yes.
Do you really? I didn't know that.
I do. It's terrific.
I love it. I love it. I love the art in it. If I can find one, like.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Kayla got that as a gift, and we would read about one cryptid every night. I've got like that same exact version. That's awesome.
Yeah. So, it is called The United States of Cryptids, a tour of American myths and monsters. And super cool. He like toured around the US. And I dog-eared one of them. Don't look at that. All the book lovers out there are now gonna put me on their shit list. But it's all really interesting. Like he would go around and talk with some of the locals to learn more about the lore and stuff if he couldn't find anything online. My favorite one that's mentioned in the book is the Piasa bird, because I grew up about 45 minutes away from Alton, Illinois, which is home of the Piasa bird.
Heck yeah, it is. Did you ever you saw like the painting?
Okay, yeah. So I've seen the painting, but also I was in track in junior high and high school, and we would travel for track meets and stuff, and we would play the Alton school, and their mascot is the Piasa bird. And always like, I know this isn't true, but I grew up in Hillsboro, Illinois, and our high school mascot was the Hilltoppers. So it was literally this guy with like a pickaxe, like climbing up the side of a mountain or a hill. And I'm like, well, no wonder we can never fucking win, because we're a stupid ass hilltopper and we're fighting a Piasa bird. Who's going to win in that? Okay. Definitely not me.
Absolutely. Piasa bird is a really cool one. I also believe there is a town near here called Piasa, Illinois. I think they just pronounce it Piasa, but hey, whatever, it is what it is.
I think that's right. I think I've seen that before.
For
Piasa,
sure.
Illinois.
Now, yeah. I believe also, I don't know if I have a reference I can pull up right here, but the Piasa bird is also one of the larger cryptids that's mentioned in that book. I believe it's somewhere, in the neighborhood of like 40 feet wingspan or something like that.
It's super
allegedly.
Big, yeah. Okay, so now that we've talked about our favorite cryptids, I guess maybe we should go into like the actual episode content. I don't know.
It might be worth exploring.
Yeah. Okay. So the first one we're going to cover is Bigfoot, otherwise known as Sasquatch. I'm going to go back and forth on calling them Sasquatch, Bigfoot. We're going to act like everybody knows what those are. They're one and the same. If any cryptozoologists write into the show, tell me I'm wrong. That's great. nicheknowledgeandnonsense at gmail.com. So Sasquatch is a large, hairy, human-like creature believed by some people to exist in the northwestern United States and western Canada, which I did not know.
No.
It seems to represent the North American counterpart of the Himalayan region's mythical monster, the abominable snowman, or Yeti. The name Sasquatch derives from the Salish word, I'm not going to pronounce that. It kind of looks like it's SE''SXAC. I'm not sure.
That doesn't sound like a real word at all, but it means wild men?
Yeah. Yeah, it means wild men.
Okay.
The creature is also commonly called Bigfoot.
Yes.
Reports of Bigfoot-like creatures can be traced back centuries among indigenous peoples of North America. The term Sasquatch originates from Native American folklore. North American settlers started reporting sightings during the late 1800s and into the 1900s with the occasional finding of footprints, sporadic encounters, and even a few grainy photos and videos adding to the mystery. Bigfoot is variably described as a primate ranging from 6 to 15 feet tall, standing straight up on 2 feet, often giving off a foul smell and either moving silently or emitting a high-pitched cry.
Me. I'm
Yep, that is
really
literally
close
even
on
to a
this
T.
one.
I know. What are you, like 6'4"?
Oh, yeah, somewhere in there. Let's go with 6'4". That
Okay.
sounds cooler. No, I'm
6'4"?
like 6'2". But I mean, I do
Okay,
have
I wasn't too far off.
some big feet. Like, I mean, I can barely stand in a house unless they got a damn doggy door, you know, that my
I know.
feet can stick out
and
of.
like the random shrieks that you do also.
You know,
it's like uncanny.
I know, you never know when it's gonna happen.
Bigfoot.
No. I'm kidding.
Where was I? Hang on a minute. Okay. Footprints. Did I say about the footprints? Footprints have measured up to 24 inches in length and 8
Sheesh.
inches in width, which is like, there's a big old foot.
Oh yeah, those are some dogs. So out of curiosity, human being largest foot. Okay, so out of curiosity, I looked up the largest human foot, and that actually belonged to Robert Wadlow, also of Alton, I believe, right?
Yeah, because he was the world's tallest man.
Correct, and
he's from Alton.
his
Yep.
feet measured 18.5 inches. So even the 8'11" Robert Wadlow could not hold a
Whoa.
candle to Bigfoot by several inches. But it's interesting, kind of right in that height range and kind of close to the foot size. So biomechanically
yeah.
speaking, there might be something to this. You're convincing me over to the Sasquatch camp.
Oh no.
But please.
Should we start like a cult that believes that Robert Wadlow was like
Was
Bigfoot, a descendant of Bigfoot?
We're like, oh man, that's Robert. He's still out there.
That's Robert.
He
Yeah.
never died. He escaped Illinois.
He escaped.
He didn't die. He went to Canada
Okay.
because of the damn taxes.
The taxes. Yeah, I don't blame him, honestly.
Oh, you know.
Yeah. So a Soviet scientist, Boris Porshnev, suggested that Bigfoot and his Siberian counterpart, the Almas, could be a remnant of Neanderthals, or Robert E. Wadlow. But most scientists do not recognize the creature's existence. Instead, it is thought to be a hoax or an animal, possibly a bear. However, some argue that the dense, remote forests of the Pacific Northwest could conceal such a creature. But despite numerous expeditions and investigations, conclusive evidence remains elusive. The debate and research continue. Entire organizations exist to study and document Bigfoot and prove that it's real, and groups regularly search the Northwest woods looking for that ultimate proof.
Wow.
Which blows my mind. There are so many TV shows, documentaries, websites, interviews with people, news articles about people who go Bigfoot hunting.
Absolutely. So have you ever seen the documentary, I believe it's called Troll Hunter?
I've seen the movie. Troll hunter?
Oh,
Troll.
yeah, where they go looking for trolls out in the mountains.
And it's like winter.
Yeah.
Yes, I've seen that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, terrific documentary, and I think they do end up finding some like pretty good, like capturing good footage of what's probably a troll near the end.
I would call it more of a mockumentary, Ethan.
But
continue.
it is interesting that there is such like attention on Bigfoot, and there has been for literally my entire life, and probably before I was born. I used to love the movie Harry and the Hendersons. You know, a great Sasquatch movie right there. But I would say that the Pacific Northwest, that's a big chunk of land. I mean, Canada's an even bigger chunk of land. And if you get up into Canada, you know, within 100 miles of the border, there's not too many people up there, you know?
That's true.
So,
it's pretty spread out. Yeah.
Bigfoot, even though there are a lot of people pointing cameras, I mean, could still be out there. It's a lot of land.
He definitely has a lot of space. I'll kind of touch on a couple other thoughts on that too. But so the British explorer David Thompson is sometimes credited with the first discovery of a set of Sasquatch footprints. And that was in 1811. Hundreds of alleged prints have been adduced since then. The Sasquatch legend grew in 1924 after 5 gold prospectors claimed to have had a violent encounter with gorilla men in a gorge that's now called Ape Canyon on Mount St. Helens in Washington. Have you heard of this before?
I have not heard of this. Ape Mountain, a violent encounter with Ape Canyon.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Okay. So, no, you're good. I hadn't heard of this either. So I was like, this was new for me to read about while I was like researching for this. After the prospectors wounded one of the creatures during the day, the mountain devils returned that night, pelting the prospector's cabin with boulders and repeatedly ramming the structure. When the attack ended at daylight, the prospectors fled. Although their account was later discredited by U.S. forest rangers, who notably proved that the footprints were fake, the story spread. Subsequent sightings and even alleged photographs and filmings have also contributed to the legend, though none of the purported evidence has been verified. The most notable is by Roger Patterson at Bluff Creek, California in 1967. And I think the majority of us have seen that footage.
Absolutely. The famous, what is it, the Patterson Gimlin Bigfoot film. It's... Yeah, that is probably right there up with the Nessie photograph with, you know, some of the most trafficked cryptid media in history.
Absolutely. Yeah. I did actually just have a thought on the gold, like the gold guys who were like digging for gold and stuff. What better way to like keep people out of the area you want to search than to make up a story about monsters who are going to kill you? If you go up a certain way. Like, imagine finding a bunch of gold and being like, we can't let anybody else come up here, guys. We got to make this believable. And then they make up a story about ape-like men that are going to attack you at night.
Absolutely. Then allegedly, it looks like your cat is hunting something in the background right there, which is very creepy. No, I didn't think about...
one of my cats, 11.
It's so precious. I'd never thought about that either, but you know, it could be a lot of gold if it was worth them, you know, destroying a cabin, throwing boulders at it all night just to blame, you know, the big feet, big feet, Sasquatch.
Yeah, I don't think sure, we'll go with that. There are a number of encounters and sightings and even news articles about possible encounters. The first one I found, the first news article that I found about Bigfoot is from the AP News from July 31st, 2019.
Ooh.
And it's as follows. Federal officials are investigating a report that a man fired a gunshot while camping at Mammoth Cave National Park, an incident that another camper says was promoted by an alleged sighting of Bigfoot. Mammoth Cave said law enforcement rangers responded early Sunday to a report of a person with a firearm at one of the Kentucky Park's backcountry campsites. Brad Jen told news outlets that he and his girlfriend were camping nearby and were awakened about 1 a.m. by a man with his son. The man said they were going to investigate strange noises he kept hearing. Jen said he heard a gunshot minutes later, and the man returned to say Bigfoot had emerged from the woods, so he fired. Jen said he and his girlfriend decided to leave and report the incident. Park spokeswoman Molly Schroer says an investigation continues and the park is safe to visit. End quote.
2019. So this is contemporary.
Yeah. I don't know about this story. I mean, if you're out at a campsite in the middle of nowhere, every campsite's different, and I actually didn't look up this specific campsite, but a lot of them have areas where you can camp with running water, so it's near a bathroom.
Sure.
Or it's like out in the middle of nowhere. And when you're in the middle of nowhere and it is woods, you can freak yourself out by hearing just normal nature sounds. Whether it's
you can, and
a raccoon, yeah.
When it's
like
out in the dark, like if you're shining a flashlight around, like the way animals' eyes catch the light, like you could have a bobcat on a rock and it looks like a Jersey Devil or something like that, or you could have seen a bear, and if it's hazy around it, you just see, hey, there's a 7-foot tall, big, broad, hairy thing. And, your mind goes a million miles an hour and you think it's something else.
Yeah, I mean, encountering a bear or a mountain lion or something of that effect would also be scary.
I'll tell you what, one time I lived out in the country on like a ground level room, and I started hearing something just wallering outside. Like roughing around and like going like a zombie from The Walking Dead or something like that.
What?
And I freaked out. It was not a particularly bright night. I tried to turn on some lights and I could see something really big moving around out in the yard. Got a flashlight, shined a light at it. It's an escaped cow just walking down the road. But for about 2 solid minutes, I thought there was some kind of giant slug zombie monster hauling ass around my lawn.
Oh my gosh. Okay, but how old were you?
Okay, probably like 16, like not a little kid.
I would have been freaked out too. Now I would have been like, okay, what the fuck is this? I'm just trying to go to bed.
Right.
Shut up. I gotta go find out what that is.
I would have opened the window and said, I'm calling the police. Moo.
Oh my god, that's funny. Okay. So yeah, what do you think he actually saw a Bigfoot? Or do you think he was trying to cover up a murder?
I mean,
I don't know.
I don't know that there's actually so much meat in this burger, because you could have just gone out, you brought a gun camping. Okay, that's not a bad idea depending on some of the camps.
Sure.
But you could just say, I'm looking for attention one night, go outside, fire a bullet into the air, and, go back and say, there was Bigfoot. It jumped out of the woods.
There was Bigfoot. Yeah.
I don't feel like most people come out with the definitive answer like, I saw Bigfoot. They say, I saw something. What was it, bro? I don't know. It looked like a giant ape. You got to that's some poor storytelling. Don't come out with a definitive answer.
Yeah. I'm also wondering though, like, what if it had, let's say it was a person creeping on someone's campsite and they're wearing all black sweats, like sweatshirt, sweatpants, shoes, everything's black. And it's at night, and then you're like finally spotted, and the person has a gun and they shoot you, and they think it's Bigfoot, but it's actually a human creeping on others' campsite.
Who's in the wrong in that situation?
Who's in the wrong? Blong, blong.
Email us at nicheknowledgeandnonsense@gmail.com. But no, that would be scary. As with a lot of things we talk about, I say scary if true, but probably not.
Yeah. Okay, another article I found is from M News from April 12th of 2012, and it's as follows. One of 3 Midland County Bigfoot encounters documented in a website details a witness discovering an ape-like creature on the first day of hunting season in 1997. With news that an Animal Planet TV team investigated nearby Michigan communities for evidence of Bigfoot, MLive looked deeper into the mysterious creature's footprint on the state. One website, the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization, keeps a database of national sightings and categorizes them by region. The website indicates there were 3 encounters in Midland County. The most recent encounter detailed on the site was reported by a witness who claims to have seen the legendary creature on November 15th, 1997, while driving in a wooded area near Coleman on Coleman Road, about 6 miles north of M20. She says, "I was driving north around 6:45 and saw a creature coming out of the ditch." End quote. The report describes the creature as having a flat, ape-like face and hair on its arms and head. The witness claims to have come within 10 feet of the creature when it looked directly at her.
Wow, 10 feet is pretty close. I don't even like people to stand 10 feet from me.
I know.
Especially if
COVID
they're
was like
if
6 feet,
they've
and I'm like,
got a flat
how
face
about
and
10?
hairy arms, then I'm like,
Yeah.
okay.
That sounds like the guy who sold me my soda today at the Casey's.
Thanks for the soda pop, flat face. I'm gonna Google that and make sure that's not like an offensive term.
I hope not. There was Flat Stanley. He had a flat face. He was flat. Hopefully not. I do want to say though, like this whole article is just like giving information about everything except her eyewitness testimony, and there's like nothing there. Like I saw a creature coming out of the ditch, and then it had a flat ape-like face and hair on its arms and head, and it was within 10 feet of me. Like I feel like that's not very descriptive at all. I guess if it happened fast, maybe she wouldn't have gotten a lot of details, but like
sure.
Adam and I one time were driving in the country. We were driving to his parents' house, which is in like kind of like southern Missouri, and it was at night. It was very dark, and we thought we drove by a mountain lion or something, and we're like, what was that? Was that a mountain lion? And I was like, I'm going to turn around because I don't actually know what that was, because we're going like 60 on this country road and we went by really fast. So I actually turned around because no one else was on the road with us. And it was like a golden retriever in someone's yard.
Oh, right. And if you just kept driving, you probably would have said, we saw a mountain lion or something.
Yeah, we saw a cougar or something like in the country out here. But I'm very much like, if I have time to look into something, then I'm going to do that.
Yeah, rather not.
I want to know what I saw.
Wonder. Some people would rather just have their first impression story, but, you can be a little more inquisitive, and that's a good thing. That's a good thing. No, also, anybody could just say this exact story anywhere at any time.
Yes.
There's not another witness. There's not a string of sightings happening at the same time, at least not that we know of. It's just one person saying I was out and I saw Bigfoot. I don't know if there's there's a few holes in this bucket, not carrying too much water.
Yep.
And I know this, people get way more frantic with Bigfoot stuff. There's famously, like, I think a guy who told a story about being kidnapped by Bigfoot and living among the Sasquatch for several days or something like that. So this might actually be subtle on the grand scheme of Bigfoot sightings.
You're right, because I feel like with stories like what you just mentioned, I'm way less likely to believe that. I also think people who are like, "Oh yeah, no, I saw that. I definitely saw a Bigfoot," and then like just be like, "Yeah, I was like." It just like didn't look human, and it stood right in front of me. I feel like in that moment, your brain is like, WTF is happening right now.
Sure.
And everyone's brain is different, like your fight or flight, whatever. But for me, I would have almost every detail ingrained in my brain because I would be so scared. You know what I mean?
Sure. I'm the same way. I wouldn't, I'd have a perfect image of whatever happened like that. I'd be I'd see it every time I blink. It'd be burned onto the back of my eyelids.
I believe it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I also found another article about, it was from the LA Times. from March 5th in 1989. So this one was a little bit, it was a little bit a while ago. Let me figure out how to talk you through. So this one's way farther back than the other ones that I've read. And it's a little bit longer. So the title is Bigfoot Buff Vows to Capture the Credible Likeness of a Being. I thought that was a good article name, actually.
Yeah, that was a lot. But what does it say?
I know. So it says, even a true believer in Bigfoot concedes that the tabloids sometimes get carried away. Huge Bigfoot monster terrorizes the Rockies. It stunk like a sewer, roared like a lion, and clutched the leg of an animal in its hand. Or, Bigfoot attacked us. Blood-crazed creature savages camera crew and pounds 2-ton truck into junkyard scrap. Paul Freeman smiles at the mention of such outlandish reports. He collects them and keeps the clippings in a cardboard box. Quote, there's some crazy people out there. End quote.
What a quote.
And he himself has been called the craziest of all. Freeman says he knows otherwise, that he has seen Bigfoot 4 times. He swears that it's true, and he is out to persuade a doubting world that perhaps 1,000 of the hairy giants really do roam the dark forests of the Pacific Northwest. Freeman says, I know they are here, and I know what I see. Nothing has to be proven to me, but I'd like to prove it to the public, so they'll say Freeman's not really a kook. Is it kook?
Kook, yeah.
Kook. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine.
He probably is a decent cook, but he's not a kook.
He might be. I know he's got that olfactory awareness because he put a lot of emphasis into clarifying that Bigfoot stinks.
Mm-hmm.
And
yes.
he's like, he stinks, but he was holding a delicious cut of mutton in one hand.
No Bigfoot has ever been killed or captured. No carcass or bone has ever been found. There are a few photographs, including one taken in October by Freeman's son, but they always seem to be out of focus, underexposed, or too distant. What looks like Sasquatch could be a misshapen tree stump or someone in a monkey suit. Skeptics point to hoaxes such as the time a Washington man simulated a whole Bigfoot family by stomping around with 3 pairs of gigantic feet he had carved of wood. If you want to believe, however, talk to Paul Freeman. This is Bigfoot country, Freeman says. You can go in there all summer and not see anybody. I don't know why I said that like that. I don't know what this guy sounds like. So I'm going to skip forward to the part where he talks about seeing one. He said he was a skeptic until June 10th of 1982. On that day, while on watershed patrol for the U.S. Forest Service, he met up with a shaggy reddish-brown being who stood nearly 8 feet tall. He was 60 yards away, Freeman recalled. I watched him walk the length of 2 football fields. He'd take a few steps, look back at me, and then take a few more. Then he went up over a hill and disappeared. End quote. He was ridiculed for reporting that, and wait a minute. Oh my gosh, okay. When word got out, Freeman was an instant celebrity, but the fame was spiked with ridicule. Reporters hounded him, his supervisors doubted him, and anonymous callers told him he was crazy and threatened to take away his 3 kids. Freeman quit his Forest Service job and moved away. He drifted through several jobs, but a gnawing need for vindication drew him back to Walla Walla in 1984. He has been on the spoor of Bigfoot ever since. He says he's in the woods 3 days a week, and he has sunk about $50,000 into his private search, money he earned by driving trucks part-time and selling his meat-cutting business.
Wow.
Yeah, so this guy, like, completely lost everything literally just by talking about it.
And then
I
went
feel like
back.
now... Yeah, and then went back. Now, I feel like things are a little bit different. People are more willing to talk about stuff. There is still some ridicule or like silent judgment that you're gonna get from people. I feel like that's true about anything.
It is, but I mean, even good stuff. You can go watch any, DIY home improvement video on Facebook and find, 5,000 comments of people saying about how horrible it is, and looks pretty good to me. So people will comment anything on anything, and it's a double-edged sword because also you could easily connect to a community that shares your values or is a little bit more open-minded, or, reach out
Right.
to nicheknowledgeandnonsense at gmail.com and get your story told on the web.
There are also theories that Bigfoot is an interdimensional being, with
Yes,
most
yes.
believing this because they've only ever seen a blurry Bigfoot creature or because they believe that's how they've been able to refrain from being captured by humans. However, it's important to note that the interdimensional hypothesis lacks empirical evidence and is considered highly speculative by mainstream scientists and researchers. The majority of investigations into Bigfoot focus on terrestrial explanations, such as the existence of an undiscovered primate species or misidentifications of known animals. While the interdimensional theory sparks intrigue and imagination, it remains a fringe idea within the broader field of cryptozoology and is not widely accepted among researchers seeking to uncover the truth behind the Bigfoot phenomenon. As with any speculative hypothesis, further research and evidence would be needed to substantiate such claims. But that's kind of true about all of the cryptids. Like, that's what this is about. It's like we're kind of rating the believability,
Sure. And I mean,
but also just going off of not really rating actually.
there's also, anytime you have something like this, there's a balance between if the idea gets too absurd, it becomes less believable, but at the same time, more difficult to point or poke holes in, other than just saying, well, that's too fantastic.
Right.
So I mean,
Yeah.
as people start to inject more fantasy, science fiction type possibilities, like, you're gonna lose a lot of people in what seems like it might be bending over backwards at every spinal column to try to make something make sense, when in fact it just doesn't, or maybe isn't even there.
Yeah. I do think it's interesting though that, let's say that this is fake. It's interesting to me that people continue to see the same figure that looks very similar for it to not be true, if that makes sense.
It does, but at the same time, I'd be interested. It'd be cooler if we could somehow get a large controlled population of people who don't have prior knowledge of Bigfoot, put them in the Pacific Northwest for a couple decades, see what they see, because I think
Yeah.
most people growing up, at least in the United States, we have a lot of Bigfoot media. We have Harry and the Hendersons. We have, in a Goofy movie, they get chased by Bigfoot, who I believe
That's true.
is Ginger in that movie, which popped up in one of these stories.
Yeah.
So, like, we're almost conditioned to, I think, want to see Bigfoot when we're out in the Pine Barrens. It just seems right. It seems like something that would belong there, because a lot of us see more Bigfoot media and spend more time interacting with Bigfoot imagery than we actually spend out in the pine forests. I mean, I've spent more time
That's true.
listening to Bigfoot stuff than I've spent walking around in the woods of the Pacific Northwest, so I'm almost more
True. I've
comfortable.
never been
Yeah,
out there.
I haven't either.
Right.
So I'm sure
Yeah.
I'm almost more comfortable with the concept of Bigfoot.
Yeah. I haven't thought of it like that. That's true. Okay, so that's all that I have on Bigfoot. There's a lot. I'm pretty sure the majority of people, at least in the U.S., have heard about.
Oh,
Bigfoot.
absolutely. And I think, it's fun to cover some of the more obscure stuff too, because, if you're into cryptid podcasts, you've probably heard, breakdowns of the Patterson-Gimlin film a million times, going frame by frame.
Right.
But I think what's
Yeah.
also funny is in that video as well, that more famous one, you see Bigfoot taking a few steps, looking back at the camera person, taking a few steps, looking back,
And
just
looking
just
back.
like another account that we heard
guy
about
said,
here.
yeah.
So it'd be interesting to kind of look at dates. I believe that the famous Bigfoot video was in the late 60s, if I recall correctly. And
Okay. Let me look in the story again.
sure. But it's interesting that there's
1982.
some. Oh yeah, but it's interesting that there's some uniformity in like the behavior patterns and whatnot. And hey, maybe everybody's just on board with the same really great legend, and there's some collaborative community storytelling. But hey, I'm happy. I think if anything, I'm maybe 3 to 4% more convinced in the reality of Bigfoot.
Well, that's great. I'm not like covering these to like change anyone's mind. Like this is basically just like, here's what some people claim is real, and here's some experiences, and this is what the thing is, type thing.
Yeah, it could.
I don't.
It could. I
Yeah.
can tell you one thing for certain. It's either real or it's not.
Well, right. There's a 50% chance. There.
Yeah, that equates to a 50%
It's either true or
chance.
it's not.
Well, it's either true or it's not. So obviously that means there's a 50% chance Bigfoot is real.
I think you're onto something. All right, so let's move on.
You've got to watch Twin Peaks.
Okay. I do.
Yeah.
Okay. I have started it and stopped that like 4 times. And it's not because I didn't enjoy it. It's because it's so slow.
It's very dry.
Like it's so slow paced and dry.
It's 99% a soap opera, 1% a sci-fi, and that's very tough.
Yeah. Well,
I just mean
like
they
my brain is like,
they talk backwards.
do they?
There's a different dimension where everybody speaks, like they record their lines backwards and then it's played backwards, so it sounds like they're just talking very strangely.
Okay. There used to be a Snapchat filter. Maybe it's still there, but it was like the reverse. So I would just like say words and then just play it to see what they sounded like. And Jesus sounds like sausage. Backwards. I knew that.
My gosh, wasn't prepared for that.
The more you know.
Yeah, the more you know.
All right, moving on to the Loch Ness Monster, otherwise known as Nessie.
Nessie.
The legend of Nessie dates back to the 6th century, with the earliest written account appearing in the life of Saint Columba.
You said the 6th century?
Yeah.
1,500 years ago. It's wild.
The modern myth gained prominence in the 1930s when a famous photograph purportedly captured the creature's likeness. Subsequent expeditions using sonar and other technology have produced inconclusive results. The Loch Ness Monster remains one of the most enduring and internationally recognized cryptids. The legend that we know today began in 1933 when a Scottish couple claimed to have seen an enormous creature cross the road in front of their car and disappear into the waters of Loch Ness. The couple's account sparked a surge of interest in the Loch Ness Monster, with newspapers around the world covering the story. The following year, a now famous photograph known as the surgeon's photograph, supposedly capturing the creature's head and long neck emerging from the water, was published in the Daily Mail. This iconic image fueled speculation and intensified the mystery surrounding Nessie. In the decades since, Loch Ness has been the site of numerous scientific investigations aimed at uncovering the truth behind the legend. These efforts have included sonar scans of the loch's depths, underwater expeditions, and even DNA sampling of its waters. While some studies have yielded intriguing results, such as the detection of large underwater objects, conclusive evidence of a creature resembling the traditional description of Nessie remains elusive.
Ooh.
So I thought that I had known about like the sonar scans and stuff, but I didn't know about the DNA sampling.
No, that seems
I thought that was
wild.
wild.
So they're just like scooping it up to see if they can track anything, like anything funky in the water.
Yeah, I guess they just like test it for certain things or organisms, and which makes sense. I mean, it doesn't take very much DNA for something to be like left or to leave a, But,
Sure.
Yeah, I didn't know about that, so I found that interesting.
No, that is interesting. And I think it's creepy. I hate that ambiguous like thumbnail. I'm sorry. I hate that ambiguous cliffhanger. Like they're large underwater objects, but they don't know what they are. I need more information than that.
The Loch Ness in Scotland is 755 feet deep at its
Oh my
deepest point.
gosh.
So
You could fit part of Mount Everest in there.
Gosh. However, in 2016, a tour boat skipper used sonar equipment to record a depth of 889 feet in the Loch. So I'm sure it's one of those things where they know that there's something down there, but maybe they just don't have the technology
Sure.
to dive down that
And
deep.
is that
So
saying, I know it's also, I hear, not the most hospitable lake, but is that saying that there are deeper portions, or that maybe that little boat was mistaken?
it didn't say.
Because that's
I
a
actually
difference of
clicked out
almost
it.
100 feet, and that'd be wild if they don't even exactly know how deep it is.
I know. Well, I do want to say we don't know how deep all of our oceans are.
That's true. They're always finding out different stuff about that, and there might be different little chunks where it dips down further. Like, Nessie might be
Yeah.
burrowing down, like in the winter months, to try to find some, I don't know, some geothermal heat or something like that. It's a pretty smart creature.
I'd say they should just put some nuclear waste down in there and see if Godzilla comes out. I don't know.
Sounds like a great.
That'd be kind of
That
cool.
always goes great in the movies when they do stuff like that.
Yeah, just like Eight-Legged Freaks. Have you seen that one?
Yes. Did you see the movie The Water Horse?
The water horse. It's not familiar, but
It's just one of those Loch Ness monster movies. But when I was a kid, the popular knowledge was they were like, well, the Loch Ness monster is a plesiosaurus, or is it a plesiosaurus? I don't know, however you pronounce that. They're like, it's just a dinosaur, and it probably died 15 to 20 years ago. And I'm like, it works for me. I guess it was a dinosaur. Mystery solved. Really sucks to grow up, see the internet get popular, and find out that actually it's still hotly debated.
Yeah, I am kind of sad that like we don't have any like dinosaurs still here today.
Freaking alligators, it's my least favorite animal.
Okay, sure. I'd say alligators and ostrich
I-
are probably the closest. Have you seen their like feet?
Yeah.
Have you seen them up close?
Absolutely, that might be the real Bigfoot. Imagine saying you saw Bigfoot, that there's a freaking ostrich on the loose.
Ostrich,
And
dude. They're mean.
I know.
Yeah. Well, no, the other day I woke my kids up to get ready, like, for the day, and my daughter, like, I had to get her ready to get on the bus, and she's just, like, having a meltdown and crying, and I'm like, what's going on? Like, why are you so upset right now? And she's like, I'm just so sad that, like, dinosaurs are dead. And I really just wanted to see a triceratops because she's learning. I have all these dinosaur books from when I was a kid. And so she's learning about these dinosaurs thinking they're cool AF. And then we're just like, yeah, they're all dead.
Oh, no. I mean, you can
And I
tell her,
I had never thought
Right.
to be like, oh, yeah, like these lived a long time ago, but they don't exist anymore. Like, I hadn't thought of it from that perspective of like a kid being excited about dinosaurs and then like, oh yeah, you're never going to see one in real life.
And it could be a teachable moment for conservation and like Steve Irwin philosophy that you can say, though there aren't any anymore, but you know what's really cool? A rhinoceros. It looks a lot like a triceratops, but they're endangered. They're dying, and it's up to us to save them. That way, if they go extinct, she can blame herself.
There. Okay.
Okay. All right.
I'm joking. I was like, I don't have a comeback for that. That's really good. Though. Be like,
not trying to roast your child.
Be really nice if they weren't all dead, huh, kid?
Yeah. For sure. But there are a few like dinosaur-like creatures, and there's like the flipping. What is that old fish called? A coelacanth? There's like lots of really old flipping things. Like oysters are very, very old. They've been around forever. Clams.
The Loch Ness Monster has also been the subject of hoaxes and skepticism. Several purported sightings and pieces of evidence have been debunked as misidentifications, hoaxes, or natural phenomena. Skeptics argue that the Loch Ness Monster is a myth perpetuated by human imagination, wishful thinking, and the occasional misinterpretation of ordinary objects or occurrences. Despite the lack of definitive proof, Nessie has become an enduring symbol of Scottish folklore and a significant tourist attraction for the region. The legend has inspired countless books, documentaries, films, and even a thriving tourism industry centered around Loch Ness. The image of Nessie has been embraced as a cultural icon, representing the allure of the unknown and the enduring appeal of mysteries yet to be solved. Overall, the Loch Ness Monster remains one of the most captivating and enduring mysteries of the modern era. Whether Nessie is a genuine biological entity, a product of folklore and imagination, or maybe a combination of both, the legend continues to fascinate and intrigue people all around the world. So that's all about Nessie.
I'm still intrigued, but I feel like most people have seen that famous photograph of Nessie. And I think at this point, it's unfortunately been debunked.
Debunked, yes.
And it's like there are obviously like sea monster tales that predate probably almost written language, you know. I mean, in the old days, if you just see like a whale, you know, jumping out of the surface and you didn't have a good concept for what that was, like you're staring out over the shores of Alaska, you'd probably tell some terrifying stories about that and never swim again, with no idea that all it does is harmlessly filter krill out of the ocean, just like you run through the evening air with a butterfly net capturing cicadas for dinner in a similar filtering mechanism. So I feel like the fact that there's maybe a little bit less, we can observe less about Nessie's environment, again, makes it seem like a big maybe for me.
Yeah. You know you can eat cicadas, right?
Yeah, I just said that you can.
Yeah. Yeah.
You season them,
I just
right?
learned that actually a couple days ago.
Oh, very high in protein. I have not tried them yet. I might try them this year.
I'm gonna hard pass.
I hear
that.
they're
So you just let
sky
me know how it
shrimps.
turns out. Okay, shut up. I actually call flies sky raisins because my old black cat 11 literally like she's so good at catching them. If there's a fly in the house, I'm like, 11, get the sky raisin, and then she'll be like, meow.
Oh my gosh,
So anyway,
how would you prepare a cicada to eat?
Personally, I don't want to see it, so I'd probably bread it. Like I'd put a breading on it and then maybe fry it.
That sounds good, like breaded and fried. I feel like it would be very crunchy, so I feel like breading and frying would probably play into that a little bit.
Yeah.
I feel like the center might be a little soft. I don't know how bugs cook up really. I would need it to be very spicy, very peppery. Now, what does this have to do with the Loch Ness Monster? I don't really know what to tell you. I'm just saying, get out there and live life, enjoy life, eat a cicada.
This is our podcast. We can talk about whatever the hell we want.
We can cry if we want to.
You're right.
Oh, heavens. Now, do you believe in the Loch Ness Monster, Bailey?
I'm about 80-20, like 80% yes, 20% no.
80% yes?
Yeah.
Well, it either exists or it doesn't, so I feel like that's a perfect 50-50.
Okay, what I mean by that is I'm not sure that it's still alive.
Sure.
Because it's not been seen for a long time. So maybe at one point there was like a giant old dinosaur thing. Like they talk about dragons and shit.
Oh yeah,
existing.
A lot of societies
I mean?
have dragons, you know?
Yeah, but like there's no dragon right now besides like Komodo dragon or bearded dragons or lizards and stuff, but not like on the same level as like fire breathing dragons in like Game of Thrones or whatever.
Sure, which, you know, there's not really any fossil evidence, I think, supporting that. Unless, you know, it's like you don't know what people would call a dragon if, you know, they saw a Amazonian snake and they called it a great serpent or something, and then somebody interprets that as a dragon, a great serpent, that's a dragon, you know, and they add wings to the story.
Things can definitely get lost in translation.
I think there's a lot of stuff that gets lost in translation, literally. And I mean, you could even, don't know. You could say a Komodo dragon. I think a Komodo dragon might also be one of those things that was a cryptid before it was an observed species. Or if you think if you randomly observed like a Galapagos, like those turtles or tortoises, whatever they are.
And the yellow spotted lizards from holes. Those used to be cryptids too.
Those cheeky little buggers. But again, I think anything that's under the water instantly gets a few more plausibility points.
That's where
for
I'm
me.
at too. Yeah.
And I mean, like my wife, she swears up and down that mermaids are real, and she thinks they're also most likely evil and against humanity. So I don't know what's going on there, but the ocean is a big, almost endless place, just like space. Are aliens real? There's a lot more space than there is ocean, so I think that might even be more plausible than, Nessie. Tough to say.
Yeah. No, I'm surprised. So you're kind of leaning like toward Nessie being real then? Or you're just like you rolled your eyes?
A lot of people, again, I believe some people see something. I think with the big Nessie photo, the most famous one being basically confirmed hoax.
Yeah.
I think some people might see a large snake, or they might see one of those phantom waves, or they might see some bobbing driftwood, or there's a lot of things that could be, little spindly stuff sticking up out of the water. Or if Nessie ever did exist, I think she's probably passed away by now.
Yeah, that's where I'm at.
Yeah. And then maybe we find the bones someday, and then people feel real silly.
That would be amazing, though, if we actually found giant-ass bones down there.
Oh, can you imagine 750 feet down there? It's got to be pretty cold, so maybe they're preserved well. I mean, things will fall into, peat bogs, and, there's not enough oxygen for them to even degrade, so you can get, 2,000-year-old swords or human bodies or whatever.
I've heard about that before.
And, deep sea might be similar.
I'm not sure. Well, yeah, I guess it would be a lot of pressure.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so I do have a couple of stories. I was looking for Loch Ness sightings, and I actually found a website called www.lochnesssightings.com.
Nice.
And it keeps track of all of the Loch Ness sightings ever, which I thought was kind of cool.
I wonder who's running this.
I don't know. So far, there's only been one supposed sighting in 2024, but there were 10 in 2023.
Oh, okay. Well, we're still getting off the ground.
Yeah, we still got time. We're about halfway through the year. Almost.
Get on it, people nearby.
One of the stories mentioned takes place on August 26, 2021. Quote, Benjamin Scanlon was on holiday with his family and took a trip on the Nessie Hunter of Loch Ness Cruises. He spotted something on the sonar on the boat and caught the image below. Captain Mike of the boat estimated it to be 3 to 4 meters in length at a depth of about 20 meters, while the boat in water was about 40 meters deep. So I'm going to actually pull this picture up really quick.
And that would be a rather conservative size estimate, though.
Okay, so here's the sonar picture. So I guess that would be it right there. Right here.
That might be the lowest resolution evidence I've ever seen in my life.
Well, it's probably because I'm screen sharing too.
Well, sure. But I mean, it doesn't look like that sonar. It's a Garmin, but it doesn't look like it's too high resolution. But it is something. I'm sure if you can read these, this is probably more meaningful to you.
Yeah. But this was the picture, the supporting evidence to the claim.
So there is something moving
that.
through the water about 60 meters down. And that is confirmed.
Yes. So, okay, there's that one. So that's that story. That's all that's with that.
I mean, it could be a fish, but that'd be a pretty big fish.
It would be a big fish. Yeah. I did also find an article from the Britannica This article is from May 9th, 2024. So actually, this episode will come out next month sometime, but that was this month.
Absolutely.
That was
It's
interesting.
wild.
Quote, in 1933, the Loch Ness Monster's legend began to grow. At the time, a road adjacent to Loch Ness was finished, offering an unobstructed view of the lake. In April, a couple saw an enormous animal, which they compared to a dragon or prehistoric monster, and after it crossed their car's path, it disappeared onto the water. End quote. So that's the story that I briefly mentioned before. Quote, the incident was reported in a Scottish newspaper, and numerous sightings followed. In December 1933, the Daily Mail commissioned Marmaduke Wetherell, a big game hunter, to locate the sea serpent. Along the lake shores, he found large footprints that he believed belonged to a very powerful, soft-footed animal about 20 feet long. However, upon closer inspection, zoologists at the Natural History Museum determined that the tracks were identical and made with an umbrella stand or ashtray that had been a hippopotamus leg as a base. Wetherell's role in the hoax was unclear. The news only seemed to spur efforts to prove the monster's existence. In 1934, English physician Robert Kenneth Wilson photographed the alleged creature. The iconic image, known as the surgeon's photograph, appeared to show the monster's small head and neck. The Daily Mail printed the photograph, sparking an international sensation. Many speculated that the creature was a plesiosaur. I think that's how you say it. A marine reptile that went extinct about 65.5 million years ago.
Or did it?
Which is what you just mentioned.
Sure.
Yeah. The Loch Ness area attracted numerous monster hunters. Over the years, several sonar explorations were undertaken to locate the creature, but none were successful. In addition, numerous photographs allegedly showed the beast, but most were discredited as fakes or as depicting other animals or objects. Notably, in 1994, it was revealed that Wilson's photograph was a hoax, spearheaded by a revenge-seeking Wetherell. This guy just won't go away.
No, apparently not.
The monster was actually a plastic and wooden head attached to a toy submarine. In 2018, researchers conducted a DNA survey of Loch Ness to determine what organisms live in the waters. But no signs of a plesiosaur or other large animal were found, though the results indicated the presence of numerous eels. This finding left open the possibility that the monster is an oversized eel. Despite the lack of conclusive evidence, the Loch Ness Monster remained popular and profitable. In the early 21st century, it was thought that it contributed nearly $80 million annually to Scotland's economy. End quote.
My gosh.
So there was a
lot to unpack there. Number one, the idea of it being a large eel is horrifying because I also hate eels. I don't know why, but they just seem kind of evil to me. But get this, the largest eels can apparently get up to 7 feet long. So that's pretty big already.
I've
and
seen the Little Mermaid.
It might even be a couple 100 pounds. So that's pretty scary to think about.
Eels are creepy.
They
AF.
are, and that's kind of right in line with some of the size of stuff captured on sonar. So I just don't like that they've got all those snake teeth. And I watched a video of like a fish chef guy preparing eel, and he cut the head off, and then he like brushed his elbow by it, and it was still alive, and it bit him. So I think.
I mean, I would have done that too.
I would have as well. For any reason, just. I'll bite almost anyone at any time. That's why I like them to stand 10 feet away. But my point is that I think they have so much hate that they'll even deny death after beheading to just attack you one more time. Ugh, eels. Ugh.
Maybe that's my spirit. Anyway, there are also individuals who believe that the Loch Ness is simply a body part of a whale, specifically a whale penis.
Oh, no.
Yep, that's correct. I found a Vice article that covers this. A guy named Professor Michael Sweet posted about this on Twitter in April of 2022. And the post is, quote, back in day, travelers/explorers would draw what they saw. This is where many sea monster stories come from, i.e. tentacled and alien-esque appendages emerging from the water, giving belief to something more sinister lurking beneath. However, in many cases, it was just whale dicks, end quote.
Oh my
Sweet works.
gosh. Okay. This is damaging. What else might be damaging is do I Google whale penis sticking out of water?
I'll send you the article.
Please do.
And then you can look at
I can look at the whale
can look at
penises
that.
off the air.
Yeah.
What the actual heck? Okay, I gotta Google. Oh my gosh.
So
okay, I Googled it.
Yeah.
It looks like a sea monster.
It really does.
This is
It's
horrifying.
so weird.
Why are they doing that?
I don't know, Ethan. Obviously I'm not a biologist or
Yeah,
whatever.
or a marine
but
biologist.
this guy,
What the frick? It looks like a sea monster when it's just like wiggling out of the surface, just like sticking.
it really does.
Oh my gosh.
It really does. Okay, so this guy who made the tweet is a professor.
Sure.
Right? So he actually works in aquatic sciences, molecular ecology, and freshwater biology. And he's a professor of marine biology at Derby University in the UK. When Vice asked Michael Sweet about the tweet, he stated this, quote, "In 2005, there was a scientific paper written by a chap called Paxton, and they tried to look through all the various different literature and back this up, this sort of hypothesis." He said, "But I just thought it was an interesting thing, and I didn't really know about it. And then the more I looked into it, the more I read about whale sex and things like that. It just became more and more believable to me, so I thought the world needed to see it too." End quote.
Well,
However, yes, go ahead.
wish I hadn't seen some of what I just saw, but please continue.
However, people are quick to discredit the belief that Nessie actually could be a free willy.
No frickin' way. My God.
Oh man, I couldn't not do that.
No, man, the amount of pop culture and scientific discovery that had to go into that was alarming. Go on.
Okay. I am almost done, Ethan. Just hang on. All right. Live Science also interviewed Sweet on April 14th, 2022, and he stated this, quote, "I used the image of Nessie just as an example of what people used to describe sea monsters looking like. There are no whales whatsoever in Loch Ness, so Nessie was a poor choice to use in this instance." End quote. Sweet also believes the photo of Nessie, which was taken in 1934, is most likely a hoax, and he suggested that the cryptid, a creature whose existence is disputed, probably never existed. And in 2019, a study of the DNA in Loch Ness, Scotland, confirmed there's no unusual genetic material in the water, confirming that even if the Loch Ness Monster once lived there, it doesn't anymore. End
Gotcha.
quote.
So your initial theory that Nessie has passed away is most likely the case.
Yes.
So I think
Yep.
where I'm falling on this now after that article is there's a 75% chance Nessie was real at some point, 25% chance never real, and, probably 25% chance, passed away. So I'm going 25%
this up real quick.
never existed, 25% existed but dead, 50% still out there.
Okay, so I know that Loch Ness does connect to the ocean. So
How
I
can
just
they
looked-
say definitively that there are no whales in Loch Ness if it connects to the ocean?
Well, I just looked it up. Could a whale swim from the ocean to Loch Ness? And the answer that I got, this is from AI, so hopefully it's...
Oh, the Google AI
legit.
result thing. Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah. A whale could swim 6 miles upriver from the ocean to Loch Ness if water levels are high or after a big flood. However, some say it's not possible because the first sightings of the Loch Ness Monster occurred 50 years after the Caledonian Canal was completed, making it impossible for a whale to get into the loch. But I mean, that could have been
Could have been in there for a long time. You never know. Whales live for a long time.
They do, actually. Yeah.
For sure.
So,
I mean, like,
yeah.
how long do whales live? If I pop that in, up to 90 years. Some species, orcas live 90 years. Pacific right whales live 70 years. Blue whales live 80 to 90 years. So yeah, these things get some mileage on them.
I had no idea, and they're like giant.
Yeah, they're pretty big. I think some of the biggest animals. I believe the blue whale is not only the biggest animal today, but the largest animal to ever exist that they've ever proven.
Oh.
Yeah, nothing's ever beaten the blue whale. It's just the apex.
Huh. I had no idea.
Yeah, it's kind of an honor.
Yeah, the apex dinosaur?
The blue whale's bigger than any dinosaur that ever existed.
Okay, my mind is blown right now.
Dude.
Even the megalodon?
Yeah. Way bigger than a megalodon.
What?
Yeah.
Now I'm going to have to look up, like
No problem.
graphics.
But yeah, a blue whale is 110 feet long and 330,000 pounds. And megalodon was 18 meters long, which is 3 times as big as a great white shark, but that's still only like 60-ish feet. So it's
okay. Yeah, I was gonna say I'm gonna need either feet or lengths in hot dogs.
Right. So the largest megalodons probably would have been half as big, half as long as a blue whale, and maybe a quarter of the size. But a lot scarier looking.
Oh my god. Yeah, way more.
For sure.
Oh.
I think
I just got the ick. Of the ocean.
I've got a megalodon tooth somewhere. They're pretty scary.
No,
I do.
Don't.
You can
Where'd you get
buy
that
them. They're
from?
not that expensive.
From your dentist?
My gosh.
You just like walk into the waiting room and there's a megalodon waiting. They're like,
oh my gosh. Okay, so get this.
Anyway.
At this time right now, if I go over to eBay, right, you can get all kinds of megalodon and other large sea teeth for as low as $25. They're as big as your palm or bigger.
what?
Yeah.
Dude. Because some of these teeth that I just Googled are like, one is like 129.
Still pretty cheap.
This one on eBay is 995.
Ooh, I think the nicer the example, obviously, the more expensive. But for some of these cheap ones, that'd be a cool gift for a kid, to give them an actual dinosaur tooth. My gosh.
Actually, that's a great birthday gift idea. I think I'm going to have to do that for my kid this year.
Maybe, yeah. Some of them are cheap. Some of them are. Oh, they're the littleish ones. They're as big as your palm. They're cheap. The cool looking ones that are like the size of your hand, like finger splayed. Those are like $500.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
That would
honestly
be insanely
still
cool
seems
to have,
pretty
though.
fair to me.
I know.
It's pretty nuts.
Yeah, it does. Anyway. Dang. Now I had no idea.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
I don't know how much a Loch Ness monster tooth would cost. If I had to, I could look that up right now, but...
There's not going to be one. You're probably going to find something, though. They're going to claim that it's a real Loch Ness tooth or something.
Oh, yeah. So, let's see. All right. Nothing popping up on eBay, but I'll keep my eyes peeled.
That's probably a good thing,
they've
though.
recovered
that means that they're like...
plesiosaur
Yeah.
teeth. They've recovered those teeth. So, I mean, it's basically like a plausible Loch Ness tooth.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Huh. Well, dude, how do we want to end the episode?
Oh man, I'm just gonna talk about how shocked I am, and then thank you for covering it.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh man,
So, Ethan, what did you think about all the facts and stories?
continue to be a little bit disappointed with Sasquatch narratives overall, but I just light up like a child at Christmas when we talk about the Loch Ness monster. I think they're I mean, we know that great apes exist and those could get anywhere in theory, and there could be a small population or some funky upright bears that could be. But we know there's all kinds of jacked up sea stuff. And if it's not exactly like a dinosaur, then I'm okay with that. Maybe it is a really big eel. Maybe the Loch Ness monster isn't as fantastical as I hoped, but I have hope that there is some kind of large serpentine monster out there in the loch, and I'd still love to see it before I die.
Yeah, no, I agree. Loch Ness is a little bit more believable than Bigfoot.
For sure, for sure. But I am looking
yeah.
forward to hearing some of the stories and the theories and the news articles on some of these other things, because I really like the Yeti, so I'm looking forward to that. Chupacabra, I think, is definitely going to have some compelling evidence, because I've got an old farm cat, and I'm pretty sure he might be one of those. I think if he had the
Yeah.
opportunity to drink goat blood, he'd be doing it.
Does he like to suck goats?
Yeah, yes, so sure. All right. So since we said, does he like to suck goats, do we have anything else?
No, that's pretty much it. Thanks for listening to another episode. If you want, you can check out our Instagram page. It's at NKNPod. And you can also write into the show. You can share stories, thoughts, niche knowledge and nonsense at gmail.com. And we'd also really appreciate it if you left us a review. Unless it's bad, then you can shove it up your ass.
Yeah, no, a fair review wherever you listen to your podcast is
A fair
greatly
review.
appreciated.
Yeah.
And if it happens to be, a high review, then I think it lowers our odds of uploading the picture I had to look at of a whale penis onto our Instagram.
Yeah.
So
if you leave us a good review, we won't have to ruin everyone's retinas with a whale dick. Instagram.
Absolutely. And yeah.
Just kidding. We're probably not going to post it anyway. You can do that yourself.
It's Googleable.
Look it up
it's
yourself.
Googleable. It definitely should have been blurred. I feel like the Google safe search is failing me.
Well, I don't know. It's nature.
That's that.
don't know.
I'm freaking scared of nature now because
Anyway, we're getting off topic or off track
we are.
again.
I guess I just
so
have penises on the brain.
You're
So,
stuck.
all right. Thanks for listening, and we will catch you again in 2 weeks.
Yeah, catch you
Bye.
later. I'm not saying that. Yeah, have a good one. Thanks. No, I'm not saying that either. I'm just not. I'm so sorry.